Welcome back to Pastor Plek's podcast, recording from Austin, Texas, where we're talking about faith, culture, and everything in between. I'm your host, Pastor Plek, and with me in studio is the Bless Your Heart champion, Catie Sas.
Hey, how's it going?
And I also have Joseph Aiken III wearing and sporting his God is Dope t-shirt. How are you?
I'm doing well.
I love your guys' shirts because they're very expression-y.
Yeah, that's kind of how we are.
Yeah, you guys you guys share your faith and your expressions very well.
Thank you.
All right, so here's what I want to talk about. I want to go over real quick what we talked about Sunday, which was on community, and we're really bringing unity to community. And the big thing of the whole series was really we started off with Joseph and talked about their community in its very nature is broken, or eventually will reach a place of breaking if it hasn't already. And that and then we talked the following week of that James shared that there has to be vulnerability in community, that is an aspect of in the brokenness, in the weakness, that there's got to be vulnerability. And then this week we talked about restoration is achieving that vulnerability, achieving that unity, and that is where we find a lot of oneness in the restoring of that. And I talked about a couple reasons why we don't do well in restoring community, and really it came down to we misread what everybody's thinking. I shared, and I don't know, do you guys ever get texts like the ones I talked about, the ones that just say, call me?
Not as often as you do, probably.
Yeah, like, do you, Joseph?
I get them.
Yeah, so, okay, tell me, for me, and this might be, I'm really wondering if I have like a psychosis. I need to sit down with Lizzie or something to talk about. But what goes through your heart? Because in my heart, I get immediate anxiety on the call me because I immediately think, oh crud, what did I say? Does that resonate with you at all? Or are you just think, oh, they just want to have a conversation?
No, I don't think it's anything with me. I just assume, oh no, what happened?
Oh, okay. You go with what happened in general.
Like, oh no, the worst thing happened ever, and something terrible.
Maybe I'm just really self-centered.
It just depends. For me, it depends on who it's coming from.
Right.
And so like if Catie was to send me a text, hey, yo, we need to talk. I'm like, she probably needs help about something. But I assume that about a lot of people that do it. Now, if it came from you, hey, we need to talk. I'm like, snap, what happened? So I think,
try not to do that. In fact, if I say, hey, we need to talk about whatever the thing is, so you know that you're not in trouble. And maybe I'm oversensitive to that. Do you think I'm oversensitive? I feel like I'm starting to feel I'm oversensitive to this.
No, I don't think you're oversensitive because naturally that's what happens. It's like, man, what are they going to talk about?
Yeah.
And you go to the worst thing.
Yeah, I do.
Which is funny because you teach, don't go to the worst thing.
I do, but of course, I mean, maybe that's because I have to. Okay, here's why. This is a good. It's like Michael Jordan can't teach you to shoot a jump shot because he's just too stinking good. But you get a guy that is like a 5'9" white guy like John Stockton, he probably could. Anyway, just because there's just so much physical differences in shooting. I don't know why I'm talking about basketball from the 80s. Anyway, sorry. But I guess my point is what happens is because I'm not generally good at. I always think. I think the worst of myself. That might be it. I think the best of them. They're probably right. I probably screwed up. And oh no, what can I do to remedy this? And maybe again, I don't know what that is. It's good to know that not everybody's like that. So that probably means I need to change a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, I do it a little bit, but again, it just depends. The hierarchy, I guess, of like, my boss says I need to talk. Right. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But somebody else is like, I don't know.
And maybe I just assume everyone's critiquing me, and maybe they're not. And so that could be it too. I got to overcome a lot of things in my heart, apparently. Okay, so here's what happens. So what I brought that up is like the reason why I get anxiety is that I resist unity through vulnerability because in general, I would rather avoid confrontation because confrontation is so difficult and it's going to result in one of two things: either rejection, that person's not going to like me anymore, or change, and that's always hard. Those are always the essential. I don't think there's any other way to review it. Confrontation always leads to rejection or change, and so I feel like that's a tough thing to sort of wrap your head around. And I went to 2 Corinthians chapter 10, and I told the story of Paul writing the letter to the Corinthian church. And he brought up an issue that they were saying he didn't have real apostolic authority. And they were comparing him, or he'd always bring up the fact that in his letters, he would write bold things, but in their presence, he would be weak or not as like thunderous, which I appreciated that he had a gentleness about his spirit. Because I think sometimes when you do read his letters, I think, was it you said that he was always angry about somebody calling out people's sin or whatever. And so I feel like there might be.
He's just intense.
He's intense, right? Which I can appreciate an intense person. So we talked about how Paul did that, and Paul really brought up his own weaknesses about the fact that he had great love for them. He brought up his own sin struggles and then said, I want to help you correct your sin struggle. And I really thought that was a great way to bring about a problem. And anyway, does anything reflecting on that, Catie, has there been any situations in your life where you had an issue where you had to have confrontation and you either applied it like that, or you shared your great love, you shared your own struggle, and then went to address the change? Was there any way that you have done that in the past or are doing that currently?
So, I mean, there was a time in the past, probably a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, where someone had called you to complain about me. This is when we were community group shepherds, and this specific couple was in our community group. And instead of coming to me and saying, hey, this is what I feel like you did, and da-da-da-da, she called you to complain and call me names and say what she thought I was. And I guess she didn't know that you were going to call me directly after.
Right.
And tell me what she had said.
Right.
So that I could handle it, not so that you can gossip, but so that that I can
like, go
handle
talk to her.
it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is what's happening. And so I'm like, are you kidding? Like, you're going to call my pastor and like complain about me? You're not going to like come to me. Like, it's kind of like a hierarchy of like, hey, if you have a problem with this person, go to that person. Don't like, chicken out and go to the director, like, or the boss. Like, just go talk to them. Like, if I hurt your feelings, I want you to tell me.
Right.
And I would rather you tell me something that's really hard to hear than hear it from someone else and like not give me the opportunity to like change or anything. So I call her and I'm like, hey, let's talk. Are you free tonight? And she's like, oh yeah, totally. Like, I'm like, I don't even think she knows that like what I know. So Ron and I end up going to their house, and it's like the four of us sitting down, and I just like cut right to the chase. I said, hey, so Chris called me today, and he said that you said X, Y, like, all of the things. And I said, so let's talk about it. And she immediately was like, oh, he said, oh, that's what he said? And I'm like, yeah, so if that's how you feel, like, I'd like to talk about it. And it was like extremely awkward.
So how'd that go?
Of course, there was like a lot of backtracking and, like, oh, maybe those were strong words to use and, all of that. And I was so irritated because I'm like, I want you to be honest. I want you to just say how you feel. I can handle it. Like, just say it to my face. Like, literally, please say it to my face so that I can have the opportunity to process and pray about my actions. And if there's any wrong that I have done, like, I want God to convict me. I want God to reveal to me where I was in the situation, like what I could have done better. Because how am I supposed to grow if I don't know what I'm doing wrong?
Right.
Like, that's just... So anyways, I don't even know if I answered your question, but that's the first thing that came to
Yeah, that was interesting because I wasn't thinking you'd talk about that. I was thinking you'd talk about the thing that you talked about with Ryan. Just like you were like,
oh,
but that might not be a confrontation thing.
I mean, no, it wasn't him confronting me.
Oh.
It was just him talking about how he felt about something, and I was like invalidating his feelings because I didn't understand.
Well, that's a confrontation, so that counts. So
yeah.
what's the thing? Because you wanted our
advice.
advice.
I just think of like confrontation is really intense.
No, it doesn't always have to be that intense. It could be like, and I think that's the part that the whole point is I think I said that if you confess small, you don't have to confess big.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think this was because you were talking about pre-show, like, hey, I've got something to ask you guys. And,
I need male insight on this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so last night we have like a marriage journal where Joseph, your face is like really, really hard.
Oh my gosh.
sorry. I'm trying to listen.
Change your face. I don't know what.
You're literally looking at me.
You're telling the story.
You're telling- like, we're-
no, but like your eyes are. I just okay.
He got eyes and they're in his head.
I'm sorry.
And
I looked down.
yeah, just look down. Avert your eyes. What?
No, I don't know why.
What?
It's like you had this like disappointed, annoyed. So basically, we're doing this marriage journal,
Uh-huh.
and where we like put our. It's like a calendar, and then after the calendar, we have questions that we can answer throughout like through the week. Yeah, I'm like, okay. And so on the calendar, we like do these like weekly date nights. We either do just me and Ryan, or we do family date nights. So
Nice.
like we bring Ava, and it's just like a way that we get to go out to eat, and I don't have to cook. Well, so this week I was like, oh yeah, Thursday we can go on a family date night. And Ryan goes, no, it's like still April, so like we don't have the budget to do one at the end of the month. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then I guess that question brought up feelings of like financial burden. And
On
then
him or you?
On him. And so he goes, actually, I need to talk to you about this.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, oh.
So you did feel the anxiety. I need to talk to you.
Yeah, like
Okay.
he's so anytime my husband says like, hey, we need to talk about this, I immediately am like, oh, like
Okay,
what
good.
did-
So I'm
what did
glad
I-
that somebody
did I,
else
like-
kind of feels my pain. Yeah, that- good. All right, go on.
And so he's like, you know how sometimes you just like will randomly say like, hey, we should buy this, or hey, we should go do this, or oh, we should go to this place. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it's fun. I think of fun things that we should buy, and I just want you to know that it'd be really fun to buy these things. And he goes, yeah, that really stresses me out. And I'm like, why? And it actually got really personal for him, because he's like, whenever you say, hey, we should buy this, it stresses me out because I want to say, yes, yeah, we can afford that. But like, no, we have a tight budget. Like, he's a teacher. It's not like he's like making bank or anything. And so, but I know, why did you laugh?
Because in general, you don't want to say he's not like he's making bank.
Well, because teachers don't make that much money.
Okay, fair enough. It just, I don't know.
Okay, so maybe this is where I can get male insight.
Okay, so
like,
as a
'cause
man, if you were just, I mean, I'm a pastor, so I'm not making bank, but there's a reality that like it's, I don't know, it's like saying, you're a little fat. You know, that's kind of like you're not that pretty. You know, like, or it's not like she's a model or anything. I mean, like that's sort of how
Okay.
it comes off. It's just like,
Okay.
it's not like an intentional dig. I don't know.
Well, because
Maybe
Joseph,
Joseph's
you were a
different.
teacher
Mm-hmm.
for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you know that teachers, they like make powerful impacts on kids.
Yes.
Powerful.
And that's what I've valued the last like 5 years that he's been a teacher. I
Mhm.
know that he's sacrificing a job that he could potentially make way more money,
Mhm.
but he's choosing to have an impact on young lives. And
Right.
so I value that. And
It's a
And-
calling.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and which part of it is everything's getting way more expensive now. So now we're kind of having to like pray about a shift in a different career. He's wanting to do something different now. That's a whole nother thing. But it confused me, because I'm like, well, it's not like I'm a kid that you're saying no to. Like, I'm your wife. Like, yeah, you can say no that we can't afford something. Like, say no, we can't buy that. It doesn't like affect me emotionally.
I totally
It's
understand
not
where you're coming from,
like-
because I'm like you in my marriage.
Like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, we can't afford that. Like I'm
Yeah.
not sad about it. It's just sometimes I just love spending money. And so I just like to, I enjoy spending money, and I'm very good at it, and I can spend a lot of money at one time.
It's like you should be a professional shopper.
It's a talent, okay? And Ryan is not appreciative of this talent. And so basically, he's like, I feel like it makes me feel like I'm not providing enough for you when like that was the root of it.
That's how it would make me feel if you said, it's not like you're a pastor. It's not like you're making bank. I would feel like I wasn't providing.
And to me, when he says, no, we can't afford that, I don't think, wow, you're not providing enough for me. Like that is not where my mind goes. I think you are stewarding our finances well. You are being wise in the decisions that we make because you know where we are financially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, hey, no, we can't afford this like $50 Amazon gadget. Like, we don't need this. That's not but he goes, but I want to be able to say yes. Like, I want to feel like I'm providing enough for you to where, like, when you do say things like, oh, babe, we should like go here on vacation or something. And he's like, I want to be able to say yes to that. Like, I want to be able to say I am providing enough for my wife to have the things that she enjoys. But I'm like, I don't feel like he's not providing enough. I just feel like that's life. Like,
so what was the tension? It doesn't seem like.
Because he was feeling like I was like
not satisfied,
belittling his feelings, or like he was. What did I just say?
Invalidating, maybe.
I was invalidating his feelings, and he kind of like he might not love that I'm sharing all this, but if it benefits him.
So you can pause. So you can pause. You don't have to share it all. So clarity, because you said maybe I can speak into this being a teacher.
I need help understanding
the making bank or
making bank. That's relative in itself. Mm-hmm. Like to compare.
Because I'm trying to tell him how to feel about something. Like, don't feel like you're not providing enough. Know that I don't think that. So like, why don't you feel that?
It's one thing to say yes. I know you provide, but then if you continue asking, then for him, that's why that comes up. Not your intention is never that I want you to feel this way. You just like to do it, and you bring it up, and you're like, oh, I mean, if you say no, it's cool. I'm not losing sleep over it. And so you trying to tell him how to feel is what makes him feel the way he feels. I know it's kind of so you have two options. You can either keep proving to him that, or saying to him like, hey, you're enough, or you keep asking for more stuff and continue hearing him say no, and then he gets upset about it. The change part that Chris talked about, or so for me personally, like I'm that way. I want to provide for my wife. Yeah. We say pastors. I'm a pastor. People don't know how much some pastors make. Like I said, this is a relative statement. So me being a pastor, coming from teaching, was a huge decline. And I worked summers on top of doing the teaching thing. So I would either go in and do more teaching or do other things to help bring some more money. I was also in line to be an assistant principal, which would have helped me there. I said, no, I want to be a pastor, full time. And so I get where he's coming from, where you have this desire to provide for your family, not just your wife, your favorite person in the world. She wants more, but my wife is the same way. She's like, yeah, I want that, but I know you take care of us.
Yeah.
And for me, it doesn't, but I've also been married 3 times probably as long as you. And so we've been through all those hurdles and different things. And so I think the whole making bank thing, though, that's relative. And so I don't know, probably between 50 and 60, depending on how much you make, just because you can look up teachers' pays. But that's just a relative statement. And so you can stop asking, or you can even get a job part-time and say, hey, I'm going to just get some fun money. Or
that mess with him?
No, I mean, I do photography. Like
that's right.
Yeah,
we didn't bring
I
that
have
up.
a job.
You do.
You're not like
I'm
a
sorry.
freeloader over there.
Well, in my head, I'm like, oh, whatever money I make is extra, and we can spend. It's extra spending money.
Have y'all talked about that?
He says no, that's not how it works. And he's like, we do rely on your income. Like, it's not just like extra money because I'm thinking. Like, anytime I like book a wedding or like book shoots, I'm like, oh, this is money that we could put towards a vacation. And he's like, no, that's money that's money we pay our bills with. Like, that's not. And so, I mean, one thing is I mentioned, okay, we need to just do like a monthly budget meeting. Like we just don't do that. I have
That's
no
a good thing to do.
interest.
Yeah.
I have no interest in looking at our bank account. I have no interest in knowing how much money is in there. I have no interest in knowing when our bills are due. I have no interest in any of that. And so, and he happily does it. Like he's like, that's like what I do.
Live for?
Like he's like, I'm good at handling money, so I just do our finances. But and I'm like, okay,
Well,
cool.
and you're disciplined to follow his rules.
Yeah, like I know the budget because I know how much I can spend in like one area. Or like here are all of the areas. Here's what we have for this area. This is how much I can spend on X, Y, and Z. But like I don't really look at our
You should do a
Bank
monthly,
account.
weekly budget.
I feel like not that we need to like tell you how to run your life. However, it probably would help your soul to know and Adrian's the same way. She doesn't want to know. It's not that she doesn't want to know. It's just that to look at it for some reason causes anxiety and stress, and she'd just rather not look at it. And
I just don't care to look at numbers.
How about colors? I mean, he could put it for you like in a color chart or something.
Well, no, I just don't. I'm like, what is the benefit of me looking at our bank account?
Well, you want to spend it.
Then it might help you go, I could save up for, or I shouldn't spend on this so that I could have that. I don't know.
Well, I think the root of this is me understanding where my husband is coming from, of feeling like he's not providing enough.
Well,
He's
we're hunters naturally, and so that being the provider, like feeling like I have to give, like you want to do that. So when I see you hurt, especially in marriages, when I see my wife hurt because of whatever, it could be the financial, different things. I see a desire she wants. I naturally want to provide for. Yeah. It doesn't matter if I can or can't. I want to provide for, regardless if we can or can't. And so it's like, man, what do I have to do? Yeah. Do I have to do more? Because
I don't want him to like make us go into financial burden because he wants to satisfy some like desire I have to go on a vacation. Like I don't want that, and I respect that he's making the discipline to not like be a yes man. Like I told him, I said, I didn't marry a yes man. Like I don't want to be married to a yes man. That's just like, the song, you can have whatever you like. Like that's not who I married, like I don't want to be married to that guy that's just like, yes, you can have whatever, like, yes, whatever you want. Like, no, I know I married someone with financial discipline, and I value that.
So I, as one who talks like you a lot, and so oddly, my wife is like you in that she doesn't want to know about the budget, but not like you in that she gets stressed out when I say, hey, we could do this crazy, amazing thing. And so it's just it's an odd pairing. Anyway, what I've learned that I've had to say is this is me in my dream mode. Or I qualify the statement and I go, hey, just dreaming right here. Or, hey, this is not an expectation that you're going to have to pull off. So a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you come stay in our beach house for a couple nights? For me to say that puts all the pressure on her. But what about childcare? Who's going to take care of our kids? And what about, and like, she goes into like logistic mode to see how this, and then it immediately goes, that's impossible. And I'm like, all I hear is like, okay, Debbie Downer, like,
yeah.
And so what I've learned to say is this is a potentially great idea if we had all the things in order, and I kind of qualify it. So it lets her know that I understand there's logistical implications for all this to happen. And it's okay if we say no, and it's okay for it to remain a dream, because I live in dreamland all the time. I got a million ideas in a second. And so it's like I've had to preface almost all my conversations with people like, this would be a really great idea if it never happens, I won't feel bad. And that for some people to think of something that you wouldn't feel bad about not happening, it just like.
Right. He like, it doesn't compute in his head that like I don't see him as someone who's not providing enough.
And I don't look at Adrian as a complete failure, ministry wise, family wise, parenting wise, all the wise. If we don't pull this whatever this thing is off, I just thought, hey, that'd be cool.
Well, and he he got really vulnerable, and he's like, I see other husbands that are like providing enough for their wives to where like they don't have to work at all. They can still go on vacations. Like they're making enough money to where whatever their family needs, they can do it.
Right.
Whatever their family wants, they can do it.
Right.
And I was like, well, so like who cares about those guys? Like that's not where
that's
we
what
are.
you can't, and that's invalidating. So I feel like that often sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I want to do more for I have 3 kids. I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to provide. I want to be able to buy and do all that kind of stuff. And so you, and the thing I would encourage him to do, of course, is like praying. It's like I wouldn't tell him to remove himself from teaching if the goal is chasing money.
Right.
Because if that was the goal, you're gonna find something else that you're doing, and then now you're happy, you got all the money you want and need. Now you're gonna be unhappy at home, or you're gonna be at home a lot.
You're gonna be miserable at work.
Yeah, and so when you start chasing paper, and you're trying to, you know, when you're doing that,
Feels like a
paper
movie
chaser,
title.
Yeah, I mean, what's the name? Mike Todd just did a. But
Chase paper.
Paper chasers. You know, when that's your goal, then you're going to miss out on a lot.
Yeah.
So
and that's not his goal. Just to clarify.
No. I know that's not his goal. I'm saying though, for you to say, hey, don't like there. You know how many times over the last 5 years I thought to myself, man, I can go work somewhere else and double my pay, triple my pay probably. Yeah. With what I do, and then God reminds me, hey, if I wanted you to have that, I'd put you there. And I know for some people, I'm not saying, hey, God called me to be poor or anything like that, because I'm sure somebody will go into that. God called, that's not what I'm saying. Like, everyone's calling, first off, is different. And so God has me where he wants me in the season that he wants me here, and I'm okay with that. But that doesn't make it easier. I see certain families, just being in church, where you look around like, man, look what they got. Ooh, that's a nice car to drive. I'm waving at people outside on the sidewalk. Hey, how you doing? As they come in, I was like, ooh, this is nice, you know. And I'm like, man, I could get that if I want to. And God said, you could. And then, you know, so I get it. I mean, and that's one of those where you just, I think, continue praying through those things, and you just seeing him. Like, it's hard to put yourself in the other person's shoes, and you being their spouse, and you're like, I don't need that. But for a man, my wife tells me, hey, I live out of a box with you. Yeah. I trust you that much. And I believe her when she says it. And I don't want to live in a box. Yeah. But I know we've been through enough hard times where, and we literally 2 weeks ago had this conversation. She said, why do you worry so much about money, but you can have faith in so many different things?
Mm. Wow, it made everybody move right there.
and she was like, and this is actually last week, the tornado, when we had the tornado kind of scare. We had left early, and my son and I were in the garage with the garage door up. She was like, and she opened the door, she's like, how are you just calm out here? I'm like, I mean, scientifically, like, you would see some wind blowing or something. Like, I'm not worried about it. And it was touching down, I guess, a couple miles away from where we was. But I wasn't worried about that. And not to say bad things didn't happen or anything like that. That just, those kind of things don't worry me. Yeah. I don't stress. I don't try to calculate or any of that. Yeah. But in my mind, like, when it comes to finances, for whatever reason, it doesn't add up. And I want it to add up. Yeah. Like, and it's just a cycle. It's like, and I feel God is just continually gonna have me in the cycle till I get to a place where he's like, hey, I need you to trust me. Even when you don't have anything, I need you to trust me. I'm like, God, I don't have anything. And he's like, I need you to trust me. And so it's just one of those, we always naturally, we want to provide for our spouses. And so for you to, we know that you'll roll with us, that you'll ride with us. You know, you're our ride or die. You know, we know that you'll cut for us. Like, we know all those things. But that doesn't take away the fact that I see you have a need and I want to fulfill it. Yeah. And it's just, you just have to be a little bit more sensitive to that. He sees that you have a need. He knows that you want to spend money and that you're good at it.
Yeah, sadly. Yeah.
Well, no, I think there is you find joy. Now, granted, the joy is in Jesus, and but I think the thing that I find to be really great about it, this is what makes you an accent, is you don't take your desire to spend and dominate. You take your desire to spend and accentuate. And I think that makes you a really beautiful compliment to your husband. I think he really appreciates that, and which is why he wants to give you more opportunity. So I think that makes him really a special person in that.
Yeah. We're in a weird spot where we have two choices of career, and we have the very safe, stable career choice in a corporate job that would bring in more money, steady pay. I wouldn't have to work, but he would work a lot more. and it would be a stressful job, or a different position that I won't. It's high risk but high benefit.
So gambling.
High risk, high reward.
Like a job that would be really, really great for our family and benefit us, but also risky financially because it's not as consistent.
And so like commission things. Yeah, that's hard. And I think that this is where, okay, this goes back to the thing I love about you, Catie, is you're like my wife in that she doesn't make one decision without kind of taking a poll. And I think that this would be a great time to really lean into God's people, because you've got God's word, God's spirit, kind of really presenting these two opportunities, and then let God's people speak into Ryan and you and really where the direction is. Because part of him working so much, I think I don't want to say you depend on him relationally. Everyone depends on their spouse.
Oh yeah, I would definitely say I depend.
And so I feel like it's a really great thing, great relationship dynamic that you have that comes from the 9 to 5 aspect. There's tough things about some careers are that there's no off. And so, hey, I need you to talk to you about this thing, or watch this show, or hang out with Ava and me. And next thing you know, it's like, I can't, I'd love to, I got a meeting, I got a call, I got to.
And that's what it would be.
And that would make you resentful.
Yeah.
And so just really praying through that and really talking through with men and women both who've been down those roads, and what that takes from a wife's perspective, what that takes for a husband's perspective. There's all give and take and all that, which I don't know how we got fully on that, but I do love the fact that you guys have been leaning into confrontation, and it might feel small, but what that really led to is a really greater, huger thing of like your entire life decision.
Yeah, it's a big decision. I mean, it's going to affect
which is why
us.
I feel like what's so cool about that, and I think this is why this is so prominent or pertinent, is that whenever we're afraid to lean into conversations, what happens is it could totally divert a person's life, because I'm unwilling to say, hey, what you said to me hurt me. Because then I'm less willing the next time to say, hey, Joseph, what you said to me hurt me. And so now I live my life in complete fear. And every time I get the call me text, I just say, screw it. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see that text. Like, I feel like there's a tendency in all of us to do that. And again, this is one of the things that makes you really a special person, Catie, is that every time you and I have ever seen conflict, you lean in, and you might be abrupt, awkward, and whatever, but at least you hang in there.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you really unique and special, which is why even back with that Family Forever Go in your community group, I love the fact that you just went, I'm gonna go handle this because this is what we do. And that's what makes, and I think that's what's really been a blessing in your marriage. And I think that's something that everybody listening could learn from, especially as a wife, if you're listening. And I always put it in this perspective, make your needs known. You can either be a damsel or a dragon, right? Like, so the damsel says like, here's my distress. Can you help solve this? And a dragon demands and says, here's what I, want. And you can kind of play either role. And I think what I'd love for you to, what I think you've been articulating is when you have ideas and dreams, so there's damsel, dragon, or dreamer, if you can just have a disclaimer that says, I really want this to happen, but if it doesn't, I'm completely content. And this is just a fun thought that popped in my head. I'm not, because for most people, for people not like us, the people like Ryan, they think and deliberate and never say anything until they've really thought it through. And I think you just go, oh, hey, green butterflies, and you're like, that's a fun thing to go.
Yeah,
and I think if he understood that, like I saw a fun thing, then he wouldn't feel the weight of, you've really thought about this. This is something that's on your heart, and I've been really stealing that from you. Oh my gosh, I'm a failure. Because I think everyone's allowed to say, hey, I saw a fun commercial today. I thought this would be a fun thing to have, and that's fun. It doesn't put the weight on him. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I want to go back to the sermon, because we actually got questions about the sermon, and one that was really good, and I made a mistake. Am I allowed to make mistakes in preaching?
No.
Never.
All right, so I did, and this question called me out. All right, so you guys ready for this?
We did your what do you call it, your humor, your deadpan? Is that what it's called?
Oh man,
we just did it.
Yeah.
We just did it. Yes, Chris.
Deadpan
I'm
humor.
sorry. Yes, Chris, you are able to make mistakes. You gotta for the listeners.
Yeah, that's right. Because they may not know that we're that close, or like that you were joking. That's what's so hard about deadpan humor. Deadpan humor is so funny, but if you have no idea the context, It's not funny. All right. In the community sermon part 3, I noticed you told us that in 2 Corinthians 11:5, you referred to the super apostles as Peter and John and those who walk with Jesus. Who is Paul really referring to when he said super apostles? That's the question. From other reliable sources, from the context of Paul's words, he's talking about those who laid claims against him in Corinth. Is that true? You didn't go into detail, and I thought it was pretty confusing and a little misleading concerning not everyone is chosen to be a good berean. Examining scripture to see if what you're saying is so. And you're absolutely right. I messed that up. So the intention of the sermon was to kind of get Paul's how he brought forth the issue, laid up his own problems, and then addressed their issue. And so my research on super apostles, in my assumption of how I've always read that, it was that everyone deemed the super apostles like the real apostles that were before Paul. And it's not. So the super apostles that would be those that were claiming like a works-based theology, that Paul wasn't coming from God. And I think a couple of people like point out their names, which aren't important because nobody remembers them. But so from the research I did after reading that question, is they're right. And I apologize for that. And so I'm going to make sure I go on the sermon and edit that out so that nobody will be led astray on who these super apostles were and to think that they were Peter, James, and John and all the crew.
So Paul was just being facetious.
Yeah, it was exactly. He was calling them super in a facetious manner, and they would come behind him and try and steal away his new converts. And they would say like his preaching is inadequate because it's too easy. This is the classic issue of Christianity is people say it's too easy. Like you're just gonna believe something and then you get eternal life. Then why would you just quit on earth? You can just do whatever you want. I think everyone always goes there, but people don't realize that if you've truly been saved, then you won't want to do whatever you want. Anyway, I really feel I was like, man, I really messed that up. And so thankfully, I told our production team take it off, and I'll just edit that one-liner out.
We have a production team?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
That's who's in the back?
Come on,
Doing production.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Zach Evans is on the production team. He is a staff member actually. He is cranking out production week to week with hours of editing and putting time into those computers and making magic happen and streaming online. And so, you know what? Thanks, Zach Evans. And we appreciate all the hard work you've been putting in. And so he saved me from being full of errors on
Zach,
online.
shout out.
Yeah, that's Zach. Shout
Also, Chris, I need to thank you for second service. Everyone walked out of service squeezing my arms.
Did you tell people to squeeze his arms?
No, I didn't tell them to. But what was I saying?
So Chris used me a couple times.
Yeah.
On second service, he didn't do it.
He didn't do it at first service.
First service, I was so discombobulated from the whole
power.
The lights.
The power.
Yeah.
So if you weren't there on this past Sunday, we had a weird power out, which means we had some power, but not all the power. So you couldn't hook up the sound system. You had the lights that were stuck on. So thankfully they didn't blink. But all throughout the strip center and in CVS, it was like an epileptic seizure going on with like lights going on all over the place. And it was bizarre. Children's ministry, thankfully someone brought us lanterns. I think Justin Spires and Sam Tyfke brought in battery powered lanterns. And so we had lanterns in all the rooms so that you could turn the lights off and not have like beep, 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 beep of the lights going on and off. So anyway.
So second service, he was talking about his deadpan humor and used me as an example of how people come up to Joseph and grab his arms and say, man, you really need to work out.
Yeah.
And so
because that's deadpan humor.
Gosh.
There's two. The classic one is if you ever go to dinner with your dad, or an older man, or Robert, and they finish their plate and they go, "How was your meal?" And they go, "Terrible," and everyone goes,
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
That's
too.
deadpan humor, or
It's
really, it's so annoying,
it's
isn't
so
it?
annoying.
Now here's what's happened to me. I've become that.
You're a little. I mean, I feel like you've got 20 years still before you turn into that guy.
I am already doing it. It's happened. I would eye roll at every human being that would do that's terrible. And all of a sudden I go, I think I was with Joseph. It's like, it was terrible. And I'm like, I just did the ultimate dumb deadpan.
You ate
humor.
all the omelet. You ate it all.
And I ate all the omelet. Like, how was it? I go, terrible. And everyone had a little chuckle.
Oh my god!
I know it just comes on you, and next thing you know, you're your dad. Like, how'd that happen? Anyway, and so I was saying about because people do this with Joseph all the time.
He didn't go into detail of the people that do this, which I think it's probably safer not to do it
Yeah.
in front of everybody. But we can do it here.
Yeah.
We go to meetings with other pastors, and I remember one Thursday before we went, they said, I wonder how long it's going to be before they start grabbing Joseph's arms.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And so I bet you it's like 30 seconds, 5 minutes before someone grabs Joseph's arm.
So did you get like nice arm massages?
All the time.
Pretty much, yeah. At the pastor meeting, and then after church.
Everyone. So when Chris made the comment of people going up to Joseph saying, hey, you
Yeah.
need to work out, I had about 7 people come up on the way out the door, squeeze my arms. Joseph, you need to work out.
Oh my god.
So you can't help it. It's like old man syndrome comes over you, and you just become an old man like instantaneously, and you don't even know what's happening.
Was it all
to you.
men?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that might not be it.
That might not be great.
Oh, man.
I don't feel so. I'm not like I don't think they weren't caressing me. It wasn't caressing.
It was. Katie, the look on your face is very judgmental.
Okay, you shouldn't say that out loud.
Well, they can see it.
Well, they can see the side of my. Oh my gosh. No, I'm just. You know what? I'm gonna stop talking.
No, do share.
Well, no, I just like feel like my husband wouldn't appreciate me squeezing some other man's muscles.
Okay, yeah.
But that's
You
all
heard
I'm
it here
gonna-
first.
That's all I'm gonna say.
All right. Yeah.
Some men don't care. Like it
Yeah.
was literally a
mean,
husband
if y'all
and
are-
wife. Both of them came up to me at one point.
Okay, yeah, that's you know what? Maybe I'm just a little too.
You
like
are very
this is-
protective. Yeah.
I
You have a
am-
divine
I
jealousy
am.
for your husband.
That's
Well,
another
I want-
topic because it's another
We're-
topic.
This is
Because
another
we'll go
topic.
down the
Why
road.
don't
We
hold on.
will-
Why don't we
we
pick that up
will-
next
oh my
episode,
gosh.
and we'll come back around.
Why
that.
is this like a known thing about me?
What, that you're very
That-
protective of your husband?
No, that I like go on rabbit trails.
No, it's not. This is a
that
good
I
time.
like talk a lot.
No,
Katie,
that's not. What,
are you serious?
Okay.
It's like,
I don't know why. I just got really insecure.
like, hey, do you think Katie's gonna have a messy bun for hairstyle? 95% chance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that because Katie doesn't care? Yeah. And because she woke up late.
Okay. Yes. Or because I have a. You know what? I can't make that excuse.
yeah, you better not. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't say it.
I was gonna be like, oh, because I have a toddler, but this has been my hairstyle since middle school.
I met you with a messy bun.
Oh.
Okay.
Man.
Well, hey, thank you everybody for listening. We're going to wrap it up for this episode, and we're going to come back again on Thursday, and really looking forward to talk about faith, culture, and everything in between. If you want to join us on the podcast, text us at 737-231-0605. That's 737-231-0605. We would love to talk about anything that you're wanting to talk about, and looking forward to seeing you next time. Have an awesome week of worship.